Hello there. In this lesson, we are working on rounding decimals. Maybe you have seen rounding before. Maybe this is a review, but let me know if you have any questions at the end. Earlier this year, I showed you a picture of this place value chart. It would be a great idea to take a screenshot of this right now if you don't have this anymore. Especially if you're not remembering your place values like your tenths and your hundredths and your thousandths, because that will be important for you to know when we practice rounding today. All right, so we're going to look at this number. We have 482 and 453 thousandths. And the instructions tell us that we want to round the number below to the nearest tenths. Okay, so there's some steps that we're going to do. So this is our tenths place right here. Remember, the tenths place is the one that comes right after the decimal point. So that is the digit that we are going to round. We are going to circle the digit on the right, the one that comes after it. So after the 4 comes a 5. And here's where we're going to use our rounding rules. So if that number that comes after it is a 5 or higher, we are going to round the number in the tenths place up. If the number after it is a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, so a number less than 5, then the number is going to stay the same. Okay, so let's look at the number that we have circled. We have circled a 5. So we are going to round this 4 up. Okay, so again, this is just some sayings that we can use to remember. So underline the digit, look next door. If it's 5 or greater, add one more. If it's less than 5, leave it for sure. Everything after is a 0, not more. And this chart kind of too can be helpful. So any of these things that you want to pause and take a screenshot of to help you remember is fine. Okay, so again, we're rounding to the tenths place. We've underlined that 4. We circled the number that comes after it, and it was a 5. A 5 goes on the top of the chart, which means that we're going to round the number up, and it's going to go up to a 5. Okay, so this 4, we rounded up to 5. And because we're rounding to the tenths place, we don't do anything with the numbers that come after it. Rounding is a way to get rid of so many digits and stop it somewhere shorter. Let's look at some more examples. All right, so in this one, we're going to round the number to the nearest hundredths place. So we need to find our decimal point. After the decimal point comes the tenths, remember. After the tenths comes the hundredths. So we are going to round to this hundredths place. We want it to stop at the hundredths. In order to know if we're going to round it up or keep it the same, we'll look at the number that comes after it. Okay, it is a 9. So we will use our chart to decide if it's going to round up or if it's going to stay the same. So a 9 is way up high at the top of the chart. So that means we are going to take the 3 and we are going to round it up to a 4. So our first part of the number stays the same, 893.2 stays the same, but we're rounding in the hundredths place and it's going to go up to a 4. What this really means when you're rounding is that this is closer to 893 and 24 hundredths than it is to 893 and 23/100. Let's look at another example or two. All right. We're going to look at, I think, a number that's either the same or looks very similar. Oh, it's a little different. This time it says we're going to round the number to the 10th place. Okay, so we have to find the tenths. Remember, the tenths is the one that comes right after the decimal point. That's our 10th place. We're going to circle the number that comes after it. It's a 9. Look on our boxes to the side. A 9 is on the top, which means rounding place increases by 1. So we're going to round that 10th place number up to a 3. The rest of the numbers will stay the same. And then we cut off the 2 at the end. One more example. This time we're going to round the number to the nearest whole number. Okay? A whole number means we're not going to have a decimal place. So we want to round it here. We want to stop it at that ones place. That's where we want it to end. So we'll look at the number that comes after it. Okay, it's a 2. A 2 means that we're going to keep the underlying digit the same. So rounding to the nearest whole number means it's going to stay at 893. And we're going to get rid of our decimal point over there. All right, you are going to do some practice on your own. This might be a new topic for you, or you may have done this before. So depending on your level, you can decide if you want to work on way to mastery, another way to say I'm on my way. I'm working at like a near mastery. Okay, S14, make sure you pay attention if you choose this one. It is in level F. The other two are in level H for mastery F6 and for exceeds mastery F7. Let me know if you have any questions.